me show you here a little clearer. You have one handle that has one big round circle on the end. Then you have the next one, it's not quite as big. And then this one is even smaller. This one's even smaller, and then the really tiniest ball. So you can get 5 different sizes of dots if you were to dip into your paint and dot. Dip into your paint and dot, they'd all be this. Oh, let me show you. Let me show you. So you dip in and you dot, and if you re-dip, you just keep getting the same size. Now, if you want to walk the dot, you dip into your paint once, and then you just keep creating dots with that same load, and they'll each keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So if you walk, so not only will you have like 5 different sizes just by redipping, you also get all these little walk the dots with all these different sizes. So this is the 4th smallest size. Look how much tinier they are. So you have so many different combination size dots that you can use when you're mandaling. I just love this set. Now there's lots of different sets on the market, and I have tried just about all of them. Here's some more of my collection. You've got these guys that are flat. They have flat ends. And then you've got some of these guys. They're like different sizes and bigger with like little rubbery handles to hold them. These ones, they've got a stylus on the end, and then it's like a little cleaner upper tooly thing on the other. Look at these guys. These are huge. They're like metal balls. But I just find, oh, and you can use toothpicks too for doing like really tiny, tiny dots. These are toothpicks that have the pointy ends on them. And these ones I saved from like a sandwich at a deli. You can use them too. But my favorite, I have to say, even out of trying all those ones, just for consistency and getting a nice circle every time that I'm happy with, this set, they are my favorite. And they're less than $10 too. So if you can't find them, let me know. I can send you a set. And they'll last you forever. Okay, let's mandala. Whoop, whoop. So we're going to be starting with the multi-surface neon pink. I like to put my paint in the lid. And I just take a little bit, just enough that's thick enough for me to dip my stylus end into. And then what I do is I take a piece of paper towel and I rip it down into a smaller size. So I end up having just like a small rectangle size like this. Fold it in half, flip it, fold it in half again. And then I dip that into my brush tub water, squeeze out the extra water. So I'm not dripping, it's just damp. And then I lay that over my paint bottle. And then I take my stylus, and just like rolling out dough, I just set that to the surface so then my paint in my bottle won't dry out. Okay, so for our little fishy, this guy's got the orange and the neon pink on him already. But for the neon pink, we're going to come right through the middle basically. We're going to create like a little V back here with the neon pink. We're going to put some neon pink up at the top and create like 2 or 3 little rows so that we have space in between the rows to come back later to put some yellow in. And then we're going to put a little bit of the neon pink along the bottom too. Whoop, right through there. So I'm going to start with the number 1, that's the biggest size. And I'm going to dip in, and I'm just going to start filling in my little fishy. Now there I got a little bit too close to the edge. I like to leave a space at the edge. So over here I like to have a Q-tip that's just damp, so if I want to take something off and redo it, it comes right off. Use the other end to just dry it, and you can go again. Then I'll just wipe off my stylus. I like to use the shirts I'm wearing usually. Let's go again. Just going to bring in light so you can see this a little bit easier here. There you go. Okay, so I like to start on the nose. And again, I just want to make sure there's no fluff or anything on my surface before I start. Just give a little bit of room from the edge and a little bit of room in between. And I'm just walking the dot right now. So I'm loading once, and then I just keep tapping until I run out of dots. all the fish that I did on the 3 fish that I created on the carafe, all 3 of those little fish have different designs on them. So you learn 3 different ways you could do them. And I'm sure you can come up with ways of your own too. Oh, by the way, for the pattern packet, it's by donation with a minimum donation of $13, and 20% of that will be donated towards charities. And those charities would include our local food banks, as well as people that are less fortunate, as well as animals that are less fortunate, so animal rescue. Now I'm just heading on up the top fin here. And then I'm going to fill in that top fin a bit, so I can come on back down with another row. So fun! So I'm going to keep adding dots until it gets too uncomfortable for me to hold it, and I feel like I might smudge one. Then I'll blow dry it. But right now I'm feeling good, so I'm going to show you how to create one of those little rows up here. So I'm leaving space here. I'm leaving space in between right in here. So I'm leaving a little black in there so I can come in there later with the yellow. Oh, and see here, I got a little bit too close with these guys. They're touching. So I take my number 4 filbert brush and I just put a little bit of water on it. Take off the extra water. And then I'm just going to come in and just nick those guys right off of there while they're wet. So it's super forgiving. Super forgiving. And then I can just pop them back on again. Now let's create another row up here. So there. So you can see I've got a top row along the top edge, and then a middle row and a lower row. And now here's my first vertical row. Now I'm into my second vertical row, and I'm going to turn them sideways so I can get in there easier. So remember, you can turn your surface around any way you like to make it easier for you. When you're working on a table like this, it's great on the placemats because I would just turn them around like this and knock them out. Well, see up at the top there, I see 2 guys that came together a little bit. So while they're wet, I'll just come in, and sometimes you can just take one off and leave the other one. But if you have to, you can take them both off. And make sure I get rid of all the little bit of paint residue as well, because you don't want like a faint little hint of ghost pink sitting there. Oh, good. Good, good, good. I could leave that one guy there. Alright, let's go back to filling in down here. I'm going to come down and fill a little bit. Oh, see, got a little bit too close down there too. Let's see if I can take it off with my damp Q-tip. So I always have a damp Q-tip on standby, close to me, so I can nick off anything I might need to. Perfect. Then I can just dry that area with the other one. I'll just give it another second to dry. And I can come back here and fill in the middle a little bit. I want to leave room on the top and bottom of this second vertical row for other colors. So now I'm just going to come through the middle of the third vertical row. Again, I'm not going to fill it completely because I want to leave room at the top and the bottom for another color. And then let's pop some back here on the tail. And then at the tail, I like to have kind of like create a little V. So have it a little bit longer over here, leave a space, and then have it a little longer over here. So you see what I mean about the V. That way I can come back later and play and put other colors in there. Then the last area I want to go is a little bit along the belly here, above the lower fins. So I'm going to walk my dot. And there's your first coat. Now the neon colors, I find when they dry, they're not as bright as they look as they do right now when they're wet. So what I like to do is I like to come back and do a second coat on the larger size dots when they're wet. And when you do that, it'll come out looking like this guy. You'll notice that some of them are brighter and some of them are not as bright. You'll see that better in the photos in the pattern packet. So I'm going to let this guy dry, set him aside, he can dry. No, actually I accidentally lied. We're going to put some orange on him. So we're finished with the pink. Again, I would let that dry, give it a blow dry, and then give a second coat of the pink to the larger pink dots. But because we're on video now, we're just going to go ahead a little bit, and I'll show you the orange dots. And then I can cover up my lid with the opposite side of my paper towel so the pink isn't getting into the orange. And I'm going to go down a size in my stylus. So let's go down. So the largest size stylus is number 1. I think the 2 and the 3 might be a bit big for me. Yeah, let's try the 2. I'll show you what the 2 looks like. So this is neon orange as well. So when I'm finished with the neon orange, I want to put a second coat on the larger dots too. So a little bit of neon orange along the bottom of the second vertical row, a little bit along the bottom of the third vertical row, a few here above the top of the second vertical row, as well as the top of the third vertical row, and I want to put a few here along the belly and the bottom edge of the pink on the tail. I'm going to turn this upside down so I can reach things easier. So colorful, eh? Like how pretty does that look in your yard? Or what a cute little paperweight or a gift. And then think of all the different surfaces you could paint it on. That'd be nice on a card, on a wood piece. Oh, those guys got too close. So I'll just sneak them off and redo them. And then back here I don't have quite as much room. So what I'm going to do is go down to the smaller number 4 dot. So he's a little bit tinier. So the tiny dots make it look nice and detailed. And I'm going to leave a little space here from those yellow dots and put a couple more orange dots here, just floating. Then I'm going to, now one thing I did forget to do was I forgot to add some little pink neon ones to that little floating vertical space there. Not a problem. I can easily come in now and do that. Now if you're working on these at home, I would suggest to do a small area at a time and then dry it. That way, if you make a mistake or you need to take off some dots, it won't disturb the dots that are already dry around it. So it's very rarely that I'll do this much in one session without drying it. I usually like to save it, like dry it by saving it, or save it by drying it, and then continue. So I'll put a few pink ones in here, because I forgot to put them in earlier. Oh, easy to do. There, I got a little bit mucky. So I can just take off that whole area, try it, and do it again. So forgiving, you guys, so forgiving. You guys can all do this. Give it a try. I'd love to see the different color combinations you come up with. This is great for kids too, great for families to do. So cute! So now that the pink color is in my little floating vertical area there, I can come in with the orange, and I'm going to fill the bottom with orange. And I'm going to put a couple of orange on the top, but I'm going to leave some room for yellow to come later. And then for your eye color, you can decide what colors you want to put in your eyes. I think on this one I'll put a couple dots of orange in there. I'll walk it a little bit. So I'll do one dot, and then dot, 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 dot. So I got 5 little dots in there. Okay, so we got 2 colors done. So again, with the neon pink and the neon orange, after they're dry, I like to put a second coat on the larger dots. And when you do that, it'll come out looking like this. So you can see here how with the second coat, it really stands out from these guys that don't have a second coat. I just love that look. Same with the orange ones, makes the orange really bright. Now if you're using colors other than the neons, then you might not have to, like this next color we're using, which is School Bus Yellow. So School Bus Yellow is not neon, it's just a regular satin, multi-surface satin. Sometimes you get a little bit of stuff around the lid, so I just picked that off. Dry paint there. Need a little bit. Now this guy's got too much color on him, because he's got color on both sides, so we'll just take another one. So I'm just ripping a piece of paper towel in half. Rip it in half again. Fold that once, fold that twice, and then get it down. Not dripping, but you want all the paper wet so that the whole paper should change color to that damn color. Lay that on, and then just use your stylus and roll over it like you're rolling out dough. Okay, so I'm going to go down to the very smallest size of the stylus, which is the number 5. He's very tiny. And with this color, excuse me, we're going to fill in on the top here along the edge with some yellow. So we're going to be putting the yellow along the top edge of the fin and also in between the rows there, as well as down the back here onto the fin. And we're going to leave room for the blue and green that'll come later. Alright, let's do it. So I'll put a few of these on here and then I'll show you what it looks like close up. So this is the smallest size. I like using the smaller size because it makes it look really dainty and really detailed, just because they're so tiny. And I'm just filling in along the top fin. So I'm just going along the edge of the top fin. Again, the pattern packet has all these really step-by-step and easy for you to see. I'm sure some of you can create this too just by watching this video. Then I'm going to start going down the back of the tail. So I'm going to flip over and use the ball on the other side, which is a little bit bigger. And I'm going to walk the dot down there. I'm not going to go all the way to the tip of the tail. I'm going to stop there so I leave room for green and blue to go out here. Then I'm going to fill in between the neon pink rows on the top fin. So fun. It's like a little puzzle. You can create your own little puzzle. And they look so good in the garden. I like them on my table, actually. I like them all around me. I think they look great. Oh, I got a little paint down here. I guess it was on my hand. But the nice thing is, like I say, it takes 7 days to cure. So this will come right off. I can tell it's coming off because I see color on my Q-tip. Now, if it was too dry, or you're like, oh, I don't have time to do that now, you could just let it dry. And then once it's dry, just come back later and take it off, or paint over it with black. Okay, so we're going to carry on above the between the second and third vertical row, putting in some yellow there. The other thing you want to watch too is that as I'm resting my hand on here to help balance me, I want to make sure I'm not resting in any wet paint. Or you want to keep an eyeball on your hands to make sure you don't have any wet paint on them, because that could be what looks like I had yellow on my thumb, and that's what got the mark on my fin down there. So now I'm going to fill in above the tail here. And I'm going to put some around these little floating orange sections that are just above the tail. If you do a little dot that's not perfectly round because your rock is bumpy, then just go back over them and just do a dot that's a little bit bigger to cover them up. Like here, this guy here, that's not quite round. So you just go on top of him and make him a little more round. Or something to look for. If you find that you're doing your dots on a flat surface and they keep coming out looking a little bit ovally, it might be that your paint's a little thick. I do find that from time to time with paints. So what I do is I have a little eyedropper and I fill it up about a quarter of the way and I put it into the bottle of paint and then shake up that paint. And I just keep adding a little bit of it at a time, and then I test the dots, and when you have the right consistency, you won't be getting the oval shape anymore. You'll get the nice round shape. Now let's put some yellow dots in where our little V is on the tail. And then that little vertical floating area. This little vertical floating area, I want to put a few little yellow ones at the top of him too. I think I have room for maybe two. And I'm just going to double check my painted sample. Let's see if we can put a few more down on the third vertical row. So this is our third vertical row. We can put a few on him. I'm not going to fill it all in at the top there, even though I have empty space, because I want to leave room to put some green in there later. Alright, there's our yellow. Nice. So I'm going to set that guy aside, because our next color is green neon. So here's another little fishy. He's got the neon pink, neon orange, and then the school bus yellow on him. So you could literally just stop the video here and then replicate that. Or in the pattern packet, the instructions are super step-by-step. Like I said, I have almost 300 step-by-step photos to help guide you to create, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different fishies. 9 fishies in one packet. That's crazy. Anyway, let's get back to painting. I get sidetracked. Okay, we're going to do the green. We've got 2 steps left. That's it, kids. 2 steps. Green and blue. So I'm going to take out a little bit of green. And I'm going to use the second smallest size, which is the number 4. And I'm going to add some color to the lower fins here. I like to create like little rows coming up. And I'm going into the center of each of these little bumps. And I go into the center so that later I can come around and fill in with blue around them. And kind of have them coming in on a bit of an angle because the fin is slightly angled. And then let's put a little guy in the eye. So I'm using the number 5 size, which is on the other end of that one. And I'm going to give him a nice little green eye in here. Oh, so cute. Now we can head to the back fin here, underneath the tail, this guy. And I'm going to paint him in the same way as that front fin, that's closest to the nose. I'm going to start at the bottom and just go zigzag back and forth, coming up to the neon pink. Oops, there's a double. That's a little bit too close to me, although it's not a bad look. Nick that off with my number 4 filbert brush. If you need any of the brushes, I sell them too. And then, oh, I get that looks a little shiny, which tells me it's probably wet. So we'll take a clean Q-tip, make sure there's no little straggly pieces of cotton on there. Dry that up. You don't want to be putting dots onto a wet surface because then they can kind of bleed out. So let's let him dry for a second, and we'll come up to the top here. I'll flip it around, and all we have to do is fill in all these open areas here on the top fin with the green. Then when the openings get too small for that size, that was the size 4, which is the second smallest. Now I'll go down to the size 5, which is the smallest, and finish filling in. Before you go too far on filling in your dots too, it's good to just kind of sit back, check it out, and see how everything looks before they set up and dry. Because now that I've done that, I can see that I've got one guy here who's overlapping a yellow one, and I prefer not to have them touching. So I can just take him out of there and redo him once that area is dry. So I'm going to continue on towards the tail. So I'm going to continue on here to the tail. And then right on the tail back here, so I put a few here up where I could fit them in along the top of the tail. And then down here, I'm going to put in a few little dots, kind of in the same rows like we did down here, leaving room for blue to go in after, around them. So I generally don't fill in too much with the green. Now that this back fin is dry down here, I'll come in and finish filling him in. Now the green is a neon color, so after it dries I do come back and do a second coat on some of the larger sized ones. There's our green. Oh, I see from painting this one yesterday, I didn't fill in the little floating vertical guy. Let's put some green on him. It doesn't have to be the orange and the yellow like the other ones. You can do whatever you like. So let's put some green in. It's your painting. There's no painting police. You can do whatever you want to do. This is your world. Yeah, the green looks good. I like it. So here's what we've done so far. We've put in the neon pink. We've put in the neon orange. And we've put a second coat on the larger sizes of the neon green and orange. We've added the yellow, the school bus yellow. Didn't do a second coat on that because it's bright enough. And then the neon green that we just added. When it's dry, I would do a second coat on the larger ones. Nice. So our last step on that guy is filling in with a regular color of Blue Lagoon. So it's not a neon. It's the Americana Multi-Surface Satin Blue Lagoon. So here's my little guy. This rock's pretty cool because he actually is a little bit flatter on one side so he can sit up for you. So you never know what kind of rocks you'll find out there. So he's got all the colors we've just done already. Now any of these open areas, along the tail, along the fins, that's where you're going to fill in with your blue. And that's your last step. So I'm going to use the smallest size, which is the number 5. And I'm going to start on the lower fin here, filling him in. So you just fill in whatever you can fill in, little dots, without overlapping other ones that are already there. The black background's pretty nice. You could use other colors though. I thought purple might be kind of nice instead of black. Or even like a dark blue. But you could do like green, and then light green dots and yellow dots. It's just endless. That's why I love the mandaling. Not really any painting. There's always so much you can do. You can never get bored of painting. Never. Look at that. All finished. How fast was that? So pretty. If I do say so myself. Then let's give him a nice little blue dot to his eye. And then we can finish filling in these back tail. I see I got a couple a little bit close in there. If it doesn't bother you, then you can leave it. And you know what? It's not bothering me, so I'm going to leave it. Then I'm on to the tail. So I finished the lower fins here, closest to the nose. I finished the lower fins here, under the tail. And now I'm just starting the tail. So I'll turn them this way so it's easier for me to be comfortable and reach them. So remember, like I said before, you can turn your projects around any way you like to make it easiest for you to be comfortable and get good results. And there's your blue tail. And that gold background, that'll really shine in the garden. So let me show you the smaller ones that I did on the carafe. So the color placements are all the same on this guy. But then in the open areas, I decided to fill in with the neon orange. And then I did a second coat to the larger neon oranges. This one, again, same color placements, just, slightly different dot arrangements. And then I filled in the open areas with the school bus yellow.